Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story with absolutely massive global proportions. We're tracking the sheer geopolitical transformation of Central Asia, specifically Uzbekistan. This is a place that is rapidly waking up from decades of isolation to reclaim its historical throne in global trade. But layered right underneath this shiny new economic boom is the haunting, catastrophic legacy of its Soviet past. It's a really fascinating tale of ambition, environmental disaster, and ultimately survival.
Now, I want to kick things off with a bit of a geographical mindbender for you. Will Central Asia once again become the absolute center of global trade? For about 60 years, Uzbekistan was essentially a hermit state. It was completely closed off to the world as a secret military base under Soviet rule and then later under an authoritarian government. But almost overnight, its borders have swung wide open, and it's suddenly the most important buckle in modern global trade.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at waking the ancient Silk Road. Then China's Belt and Road. After that, we'll dive into the white gold rush before confronting the Aral Sea disaster. And finally, navigating a sustainable future. Let's get into it.
Part 1. Waking the Ancient Silk Road. Following the death of its longtime leader back in 2016, Uzbekistan embarked on some serious reforms to shed its 60-year isolation. And the sheer scale of this shift, it's staggering. And this brilliantly illustrates the change. For over 2 millennia, the old Silk Road was defined by those romantic but frankly perilous caravans of camels carrying silk and spices over months of grueling travel. Today, the new Silk Road has replaced those camels with high-speed rail networks, pipelines of natural gas, and the lightning-fast transit of fast fashion, reducing travel time to a matter of mere days.
The whole country is basically shedding its hermit state status, and the energy there is incredibly vibrant. Largely because, get this, 60% of the population is under the age of 30. They're learning Mandarin, they're starting businesses, and they're riding a massive surge in global tourism. Uzbekistan is now wide open and welcoming foreign media to showcase its ancient cities, like in the newly released documentary Uzbekistan: The Golden Road, which actually broadcasted on primetime British television to rave reviews.
To really ground this history, just think about this quote describing an original 19th century dining room in a merchant's house in the ancient city of Bukhara, a place that literally offered water and shelter to Silk Road travelers 2,500 years ago. It stayed untouched for more than 100 years. It's such a relatable human anchor, right? But what's truly fascinating is the contrast. While spaces like this remain beautifully frozen in time, an absolute wave of hyper-modernization is completely reshaping the world right outside its doors.
Okay, let's dive right into Part 2, China's Belt and Road.
This brings us to the modern equivalent of the Silk Road, China's massive Belt and Road initiative. And the scale of this investment is, well, it's mind-blowing. We're talking $15 billion in investment deals to jointly develop oil, gas, and rail networks. There are now over 1,200 Chinese companies operating locally, building factories that churn out everything from leather shoes to ceramic tiles. Chinese urban planners are even actively redesigning the legendary ancient city of Samarkand, with plans to double its population to 1 million.
And I absolutely love this detail. At a local carnival in Tashkent, a strong man literally lifted a 300-kilogram camel using only his teeth. I mean, no way, right? But it's actually the perfect, surprising metaphor for the heavy lifting ambition of the Uzbek government's new 5-year economic reform plan. They are literally trying to achieve decades of economic growth in a fraction of the time.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Part 3, the white gold rush.
To really understand what's fueling so much of this shiny new rail and trade infrastructure, we have to look at white gold. That's the regional term for cotton. It's Uzbekistan's third largest export earner and honestly an absolute historical obsession for them. To put the volume into perspective, on any given month, 3,000 tons of cotton are exported from Tashkent to China. That's enough cotton to manufacture 10 million t-shirts, just feeding that insatiable global appetite for fast fashion.
All these new rail systems have created this incredible just-in-time pipeline. Raw cotton from an Uzbek field gets rushed into a factory where computers and machines clean it of dust and insects, then it's mechanically combed, 6 slivers are twisted into thread, and boom, thanks to the new logistics networks, it's shipped out to a Chinese clothing factory in just 5 days. It's an incredibly rapid, automated process designed to get runway trends into your closets in less than a month.
Which brings us to a much darker chapter. Part 4, the Aral Sea disaster.
Now, what's really interesting and tragic about this is how it starkly visualizes the legacy of that exact same white gold industry. What you're looking at is a rusted ship graveyard,
with camels resting right in the shade of the hull. But this isn't a shipyard. This is the newly formed Aralkum Desert. This was once Moynock, a bustling, thriving port city with a huge fishing industry, now left stranded dozens of kilometers away from any water.
So how did this actually happen? Well, the Ural Sea was once the fourth largest inland sea in the whole world. But back in the 1960s, Soviet planners decided to divert the massive rivers feeding it, all to irrigate millions of hectares of desert for, you guessed it, cotton farming. By the 1980s, the sea was shrinking at a terrifying rate, destroying the fishing industry and leaving ports stranded. And despite recent international interventions, like a UN trust fund established in 2018, the eastern basin just continues to dry out.
So the crucial point here, the really heavy statistic is this: 100 million tons. That is the amount of toxic salt, dust, and agricultural pesticides blown from that dried seabed into our atmosphere every single year. And these massive toxic dust storms don't just stay in Central Asia. These particles have been tracked as far away as the Arctic, Scandinavia, and even Japan. It's literally a planetary-scale environmental issue.
And the cost to human life? It's been catastrophic. Breathing in this contaminated dust and drinking polluted water has triggered a severe public health crisis in the region. Just look at the incidence of kidney diseases like urolithiasis. It literally doubled between 2000 and 2014. Rates of throat cancer, respiratory diseases, and infant mortality have all spiked way above national averages.
But there is hope. Let's look at Part 5, Navigating a Sustainable Future.
So how does a region handle this inherited ecological nightmare while simultaneously managing an unprecedented, high-speed economic boom? Well, one incredibly rational and fascinating solution being deployed right now involves planting saxaul shrubs on the dried seabed. The saxaul is a deeply resilient desert plant. If you plant it in rows, its roots grow thick enough to hold 90% of the toxic sand in place in just 5 to 7 years. They are currently planting over 500,000 hectares of these shrubs to stabilize the desert, stop the toxic storms, and start rebuilding a local ecosystem.
But, shrubs alone aren't going to fix the whole shebang. The region is putting comprehensive strategies in place to ensure they don't repeat past mistakes. We're talking about adopting modern drip irrigation technology to save water, finally diversifying crops away from that total reliance on cotton, carefully regulating the shared transboundary rivers, and really bolstering international UN cooperation.
Which leaves us with this final essential question. Can Central Asia harness the incredible wealth and connectivity of the new Silk Road without repeating the devastating ecological sins of the past? The gleaming new railways and bustling high-speed trade are a massive testament to human ambition, for sure. But those rusted ships of the Aral Sea stand as a permanent, haunting reminder of nature's limits. It's a balancing act the whole world should be watching closely. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope it sparked your curiosity to learn more.